49 is writing equations in slope-intercept form. Again, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. So if you don't have a good definition for it, make sure you write that down. Mx plus b has two things, slope and intercept, y-intercept specifically. So that's why they call it slope-intercept form. We're going to do example 1 and just roll right through these. So example 1 gives us an equation. Example 1a says 3x minus 4. And then it asks us to determine the slope and the y-intercept of each. So the slope would be m, and the y-intercept would be b. Okay? So I'm going to identify the slope. The slope is 3. So I'm going to pull it over here. I'm going to identify the intercept. The intercept is at -4. Now, in your notes, you should already have this, but b is a coordinate. Okay? The y-intercept is a coordinate. So we will write it as a coordinate. So if you identify m and b, slope is fine. It's 3. But for b, once you identify what it is, you have to write it in coordinate form. And the y-intercept is where x is 0. Therefore, the intercept is at 0, -4. Okay? So you need both of those. My camera is crooked as can be. Okay. Any questions thus far? Okay. We're going to do another one, so we will get it answered. So here we have 2x plus 3y minus 9. And I know somebody's going to try to pull out m and b from just looking at this. You can't do it until you get it in y equals mx plus b form. We need that in slope-intercept form so that it's easily identifiable. So when I rewrite this, I have to get my y by itself. So that means I need to get this right here by itself. How do I do that? What do I need to move? Everything else, right? So I need to move this, and I need to move this. And they're different. So since this is subtract 9, how am I going to move to the other side? I'm going to add it. So what I do to one side, I must do to the other. I'm going to rewrite everything that I didn't mess with. So that one away equals 9. How am I going to get rid of a positive 2x? I'm going to subtract it. I'm going to make it go to the other side. I'm going to subtract it. And this is where a lot of people get confused, so make sure you ask questions if you need to. You cannot subtract things that are not the same last name. So I literally just rewrite it down. Nothing I can do about that. Just leave it the way it is. A lot of people say this is hard, but literally you're not doing anything except for subtracting, but you don't actually have to do the subtraction, so it makes it easier. Okay, next, how am I going to get rid of a multiply by 3? I have to get this y, so I'm going to divide by 3. Now, another place where I see a common error, and you might just start writing it down as 2 separate divisions, like a distribution problem. You can do that instead of writing it as one big piece. So I get 9 divided by 3, which is 3, and then I get 2 divided by 3, and I'll just leave that as a fraction, -2/3 x. And I can find my slope from that. What is my slope? Negative, notice the negative there, 2/3. And my b is then what? It will be 0, 3. If you just want to skip the step from writing it as b and then go straight into the y-intercept, that's great by me. Okay, and there's your answer. 0, 3. It will always be 0, whatever b is. 0, b. Okay, so when you write it, maybe make this note, just to remind yourself again, 0, b. 0, b. Okay. All right. Questions yet? Okay. Example 2. I need to read this really quickly. The solution of an equation in 2 variables, such as this one, okay, is an ordered pair. In other words, it's a coordinate. So keep that in mind. Example 2, graphing an equation of a line that is in slope-intercept form. So y equals 2/3 x, and then they stop. So I'm going to identify the 2 things of importance here, my slope and my intercept. because those are the only two things I need to graph this line. So, what is my slope? My slope is 2/3. Now, something that may not be as obvious is my intercept. Anybody know what my intercept is going to be here? 0, right? There's not an intercept. In other words, there's not an intercept, right? So it's 0, comma, 0. So therefore it goes through the origin. My stamp did not do a very good job. Alright, so there's my origin. I plotted the point that I knew. The only point that I know based off of the equation they gave me. So I plotted the origin. Next, I'm going to follow the slope, remembering that slope is rise over run, and this is going to be in the positive direction. Therefore, when I lay my ruler on it, it will go up when I'm reading it left to right. So it's going to go through this point and it's going to go up. So when I count up 2 spaces and over 1, 2, 3 spaces, I put another point, and then using my ruler, I draw my line. Remember that lines have arrows. This is not a line segment. It does not end. It goes on forever and ever and ever and ever. So when I draw my line, it goes directly through, hopefully, this vertex, if I didn't mess it up too badly. Okay? Draw your line, put arrows. That's part of what I'm grading you on. No arrows, you don't get any credit for all of your work. So make sure you put arrows on that. Any questions thus far? Okay, the next one, this was part A, is part B. Part B asks us to take this equation, 2x plus y plus 5 equals 0, and graph it. So, I want to find the slope and the y-intercept. In order to do that, I have to put it in slope-intercept form. So, I need to get y by itself. So what do I need to do? Anybody? Anybody? Yes, I need to get y by itself. So what do I got to get rid of? I can subtract the 5, good. I subtract 5 from both sides, I get 2x plus y equals a negative 5. Subtract 2x. Okay, good. Subtract 2x from both sides. Now I have a y equals a negative 2x minus 5. So I'm in slope-intercept form now. I need to identify my slope, and I need to identify my intercept. So let's do that. What is my slope here? Negative 2. Okay. And my intercept is at what? 0, comma what? Negative 5. Okay, so I'm going to graph my intercept. I'm going to do this in a different color so that we don't get confused. I'll graph it in purple just for clarification. So 0, comma negative 5. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down on the y-axis. So I just graph that point. Then I have to use my rise over run, and it's going to be in a negative. So remembering left to right, it's going to go down. So I'm going to have to put my point over here somewhere. So I go up 2, 1, 2, over 1. There we go. There's my second point, and I connect these two and draw a line. That includes arrows. Okay. Questions yet? Alrighty. Next example then. Example 3, writing equation of a line from a graph. So they're going to give you a graph. The graph they give us on example 3, I'm going to blow it up and put it on the screen. Hold on. We need to look for several things here. So I get rid of that glare. We need to look for several things. First, we want to identify the same things that we had been identifying. We need to identify the slope and the y-intercept. So keeping that in mind, I look, and what does the y-intercept look like? It is where it crosses the what axis? It crosses the y-axis. So it's at 0, negative 1. And again, we still have to write that in coordinate form. So 0, negative 1. There it is. Next, I need to look at my slope. Again, slope is rise over run. So I'll count 1 up, and then 1, 2 over, and I'm looking at my line. It's rising when I go left to right, so it's going to be a positive slope. So I just put rise over run. I rose 1 and I ran 2. So my slope is 1/2. Easy enough? Okay, now when I go to write this down, y equals mx plus b, it's real simple. I just plug in the things that I know. I know m is 1/2, so 1/2 x plus my b, which is a -1. Now I can't leave it like this. I need to correct something. So y equals 1/2 x. What do I need to correct? Who wins? Who wins? Negative or the positive? Different sign? Difference. Okay? The way the Springer kids taught me it was good thing happens to a bad person, that's bad, right? So, bam, bad. Questions there? We'll do the next example if not. Here we go. We need to identify the same things. We need to find slope, and we're going to find the y-intercept. Looking again at this line, it crosses the y-axis up here at the 2, so that is 0, 2. So it crosses right there. So 0, 2. Next, I need to find my slope. Looking at it, I know that it's going to be negative because it's going down as it goes from left to right. It's falling, so it's going to be a negative slope. And then again, I look at it and go 1, 2, 3. I rise 3, and I run 1. So when I rewrite this, it's just -3. Again, I can plug this into y equals mx plus b. So y equals my m, which is -3, x plus my b, which was 2, and I'm done. Okay? So they're actually really easy to write if we just follow the simple identifications first. And if you want to check it, you can plug these into your calculator and look at them and see if they're the exact same. Okay? That's why I showed you guys that thing on your calculator. Example 4, and it's the last one. This is rental rate. So we're keeping in mind that m is slope, it's rate of change. Okay? B is initial cost, whatever that they put in there. So as we read this, be looking for those two things. We want to find our slope, our rate of change, and we want to find our initial cost or our initial profit or whatever we're looking for. So calculating rental rates, Monica is helping prepare a budget for her family vacation. The family has decided to rent canoes for a day at the lake. The rental for a canoe is a flat fee of $25 plus $10 per hour. Write an equation in slope-intercept form to represent the situation and then graph it. So which one of those is our rate of change? $10 per hour or $25 flat fee? $10 an hour. So our slope is going to be basically 10. Now, on the second part, how do we know that this is our initial cost? Because it says flat fee, right? So it's not changing, it's going to be that every single time. It's just going to be that initial cost every single time. So we now just have to plug it into our equation. Y equals m, which is 10, x plus my b, which is 25, and there's my equation. I can graph that really quickly if I use those rules that we've been identifying. We just graph the intercept, and then we can graph the slope. So knowing that my initial cost is 25, what should my increments be? 5s? That sounds good because our rate of change is going to be 10s, right? So 5, 10, 15. Am I going to do that on my x's as well? Okay, so 5, 10, 15. Okay, so here we go. We need to plot first our y-intercept, which is up here at 25. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, way up there. And then it's going to rise, because that's a positive slope, so that means it's going to go up like that. It's going to rise 10 and over 1. Rise 10 over 1. Rise 10 over 1. Now this is where you have to be careful, because the way we plotted this, over 1 is only like, you got to remember there's 5 tick marks in between every single one of those because of the way our increments work. So be very, very careful in the way that you do your increments, because the way we set it up, we're going to be looking at very small pieces. Okay? So if we go up 5, we go over 1 little bit. So we're counting by 5s. 5, 10, and then we go over 1. we go 5, 10, we go over 1, right? So it's really, really tiny, so we're going to need to make that really, really tiny dot. Okay, so it's $10. Oh, shoot. Oh, that's right. Up 10 over 1, up 10 over 1. So our slope is rather weird. Do you think we should change our x-axis, or should we graph it this way? What do you want to change it to? Ones, right. Because in reality, are you going to rent a, what are they renting, a canoe? Are you going to rent a canoe for more than 5 hours? Probably not, right? So let's erase that point, change our x to 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll go up by normal. So I'll go up 10, 5, 10, and over 1. Man, that made my graph a lot easier to deal with. Okay, then obviously I just connect that with a line. Now I want you to think about this in the context of the problem. Does this line make sense for any negative number? Can I go a negative 1 hour? No, of course not, right? So in reality, my line should just start right here at my y-intercept and go up. So if you do this and you don't have an arrow on that side, I'm not going to count you wrong, because that part of the graph makes no sense. Okay? Because it's a negative, you won't even deal with it. So we're going to remain in quadrant 1, and that line's going to go up. Okay, so we graph the line. What is our x-axis? What is its label? What are we identifying here? 1, 2, 3, hours, right? So time, in other words, number of hours. I'll put a number of hours. Okay. What about our y-axis? What is that identifying? Right, the amount. So the amount in dollars. So there we go. We have our 2 identifiers, and then obviously our title needs to be in here. So that's canoe rentals. Okay, any questions? All right, you got everything you need, guys.